Hi guys, Ranell here. A couple months ago I did an overview of what was going to be coming in the next 3 months, and we're now up to date with that video, so I gotta go and do another one and talk about what's coming, what we've seen in JP for the last 3 months, and so what's coming in our timeline. I will go over every of those elements very quickly because I don't want this video to last an hour and a half, but I will be making individual videos on those things as well, so I will cover them in detail when they are close to release. The idea of this one is really to give you an idea, oh, this would be nice, I should probably save for this, and then with every switch that we do, we typically skip 1 week, so you can assume that in between two things I'm talking about, you'll usually have the chance to gather 3,000 to 4,000 viz depending on the events and story that's being released, so that could give you an idea of how much you need to plan ahead. So let's begin with the vision cards that are being released this week, and there are 2 of them, one for water and one for light. The water vision card is interesting. It mostly gives accuracy for water units in an AoE, and then water attack for these units. If you own the Thanks for the Votes vision card and you have that maxed, you don't need to pull for Faint Torchlight in my opinion. Basically, Thanks for the Votes gives you a little bit less accuracy for a little bit more water attack up, and so it's really not a big deal. They're almost the same vision card. I feel like it's not going to be worth the investment. But if you don't own either Lara Croft vision card or Thanks for the Votes, and you don't have an accuracy up vision card for water units and you want to run a water team, well then this could be worth the investment. But it's not time limited. I don't feel like you should push for this unless you're heavily investing into water right now. Then comes the light vision card, Oath of a New Dawn. Again, not time limited, so you don't have to pull for this immediately unless you want it. I think the main reason to pull for this vision card is because it gives you light resistance for light units. So if you're going to be running, Guild Battle where Starlight Elena and Jaden and Luck and Engelbert are everywhere still, well, yeah, this is going to be a good thing. Now, I feel like light is slowly falling off. Not that it's any worse than it was before, but there are competitive options showing up. Wind can fight it very well, Earth has some chance, Lightning can now fight light very well. So we're not always seeing light walls like we were before, but it's still pretty common. So this would be one main reason to pull for this. Outside of this, it gives you some acquired AP up and luck up 18%. I guess you could run this in a full evasion team to get a little bit more acquired AP and a little bit less luck. Most evasion teams, even in the light element, use the Earth vision card for luck up that gives you 35%, so you're still losing out on some luck if you're running this, but it could be an option. Honestly, I think it's a decent vision card. If I were to pull it naturally, I would definitely max it, but I don't feel like it's worth investing in a whole 10,000 viz into it unless you're massively playing light and you use this element a lot, in which case, sure, it's going to help you for the mirror matchups. Now, next is a lightning support who's Resnick. Now, first of all, her visual design is awesome. I really like how she looks, and I enjoy seeing her in the story, so that's very fun. She is a really good healer. She's got the Arithmetician sub-job that gives her good heals, and she is a main job Devout, which gives her heals that also buff together. So it's a pretty good kit. She does enable lightning characters a lot with some of her buffs that increase lightning attack, and then she can grant physical barriers. If you're not running the Arithmetician sub-job, you have access to Steel Heart, so Charm, on the enemies, and her AI actually uses it on auto, which I found very surprising when I saw that. So I feel like she is a good unit, but there's already a really good cast of lightning units you can run in a PvP setup, right? You have access to Cloud, you have access to Ibarra, Charlotte, Esther, so I feel like she's not going to see that much play. Now, if you're thinking of PvE and you want a lightning-oriented healer, you could always go for her. I think that players that own Velis, though, definitely don't need her. Even in a lightning team, I would value the multiple haste and the AP generation on top of the healing a lot more than I would value what Resnick brings. So if you own Velis, good, you can just skip her and not have any second thoughts. Otherwise, even for the other players, I feel like she's not worth pursuing because she is in the permanent pool and she's not a game changer for the current lightning setups. Now, after Resnick's release is a vision card that here I think it's worth investing into. This card is an agility vision card oriented for lightning units. It does give a lot of magic, so if you don't have a mage in your team, it might give you a little bit less attack because you're slotting this in instead of something else. But the fact that this gives you 15% agility is really good. I feel like lightning is an element that hits super hard when it attacks, and if you're able to play a bit faster than your enemy, you have better chances of landing the first hit on them or taking 2 turns in a row and then just obliterating several people, so it's just going to be great. Every agility up vision card that I talk about, I typically recommend. It also has acquired AP up and water resistance, which I don't like that much, so it's not the best vision card I could imagine, but just the agility part makes it worth it in my opinion. If you're a lightning player, this is somewhere you should probably invest in, even though it's not time limited. Then comes the 4th cost 100 unit for Dark Element. They just don't stop coming. Leela is a very interesting unit. She is a highly accurate attacker that has large diamond shapes AoEs and inflicts debuffs pretty much whenever she hits. She has a courage and then another buff that whenever she goes to low HP, she heals back quite a bit, so that's a great combination in their buffs. And then she has some solid bruisery capabilities. She's got good HPs and good defenses in her kit. She's definitely not an evasion type unit. The way I see her fit in a team is mostly as kind of a Dwayne that doesn't have any hate, but instead has very large AoEs. So if you like this type of gameplay, she might be a good unit for you. When I see showcases of dark teams on the JP side, she is almost always in those teams. So if you want to invest very heavily into dark, she's definitely a unit to look out for. I think she's going to have a good long run. Now, right after Leela is a cost 90 vision card for the Dark Element. So it's our 3rd cost 90 vision cards after Bahamut and Chaos Odin, and I feel like it's less an important pull than either of those two. The Esper itself is a dark slash oriented Esper. It has good stats overall, but it's nothing we don't already have access to. I would honestly, even on my dark units, I would run normal Odin over this one in most scenarios, so it's not a must-have for your teams. It's good, but you can make do without it. The one thing that's really good is the vision card because of the individual stats that are insane. I typically don't look at those that much because I feel like they don't matter in the EX era with runes and everything, but this one gives you HP, AP, attack, dexterity, agility, and luck. That's just a crazy combination. It's almost double the stats you'd gain from another vision card. And then the party ability is single target resistance, slash resistance penetration, and dark attack. So it's overall, it's a good vision card for your teams, but there are a lot of other good vision cards for dark. Like you have the Black Rose vision card, right now the Persona VC we just got. So yeah, it's going to be good, but if it's those types of banners that don't really have a pity, or you have to go all the way to 40,000 viz for it, don't pull for it, just wait to naturally get it. Your dark teams will still be very usable without it. Now, next up, we have a MR unit that is surprisingly good, and we'll be getting those. There are 3 of those that have been released in JP currently that we don't have in Global. They're all cost 50, and they are all really, really good. So I feel like don't pull for them. I'm not sure whether they're handout or not, but these units are going to be very competitive in cost restricted play, and I feel like saving some blossoms for them at least is definitely worth it. This one is a highly accurate unit that has defense and slash resistance in high numbers, so she can penetrate most tanks. She breaks barriers, imperils AoE resistance, and then dispels protect, shell, and the runic buff from Celeste. So she's definitely well-rounded. I believe she's worth building for, especially for time-limited guild battle or perhaps some class match shenanigans. But that's it. We are getting some more MRs, which I think is pretty exciting. After her release on the JP side was Valentine Vildyra. I don't think we'll be getting her midsummer. I feel like this is a window of opportunity that Gumi will decide to release the summer units, and with the fan vote on the JP side, the summer unit was going to be a new version of Helena, so we'll get, I guess, a swimsuit Helena at that point. I can't talk about this, we don't know what she's going to do, and if I'm wrong and we get Vildyra, I'll be pretty happy because she is a really interesting unit. So Vildyra, whenever we do get her, is an evasion enabler, so she blinds, she increases evasion for her friends. Her limit break is really interesting. It's a large diamond shape, CT down 50%. So it slows down the enemy team, increases her own speed, and just helps you get several hits in a row, which I think is fun. And then outside of that, she's a debuff specialist with access to the ranger subjob, so sharpshoot can be in there. Seems like a really good manual unit, but she won't be that evadey in the fire element because there's no fire luck-up vision card. So I feel like you'll use her more as an attacker than as a true evasion unit, at least within a fire team. After that comes the Final Fantasy X Rerun. So two things are going to come from that. First, all the three units are going to get a second mastery ability. For Tidus and Oron, we're talking mostly some slash resistance penetration, so it's a good upgrade. Yuna gets some reduced casting time, which is definitely needed for her, but also some AoE resistance. So they are good MA2s. I still feel like Yuna and Oron aren't going to be must-pull units at that point. They are still fairly outdated compared to what we've gotten in the last year. But Tidus, if he's still handed out for free, will be worth building for newer players, because an AoE haste that can potentially hit all 5 units in PvE stages definitely has some value in my mind. Then the Vision card, I don't know if it's a must-pull. It's a good Esper for light mages, and then the Vision card itself gives you magic resistance penetration, magic attack, and Dark Killer. So Dark is getting a bunch of good releases. Maybe you could use this for an NT Dark team, but outside of that, I feel like Light just has so many good Vision cards that unless you're building a team with Sakura and Yuna and you're basically building a Light Mage team, it's not going to see much play. Then comes what I think is going to be the strongest cost 100 in between our current version and the JP version, and that is Sadali, the Wind Mage. We've seen him in the story a lot. He's definitely more powerful than I thought he'd be, seeing as he avoids fights as much as he can within the story. But there we go. This guy is very fast. He is a mix between a buffer and an attacker. He has really good attacks with high mods and large AoEs, so he can take on the role of an attacker. He has missile and magic type attacks, so he can bypass resistances a little bit with that. But his buffs are what makes him really good in my mind. He can grant somebody else re-raise and hate, which you can use to manipulate the enemy AI. He has an AoE buff that gives all elemental resistance, but also for the next 3 turns, his allies are going to remove extra hit when they attack an enemy, so Astrius's Limit Break or Noctis's Arminger that has an extra hit after their attack, they are not going to get these anymore. And then it also removes AP Restore. I don't know how well the AI is going to use that, but in manual you could definitely have something like buff your Corwall so he removes the Bells user from the enemy team from very far away. There are some things that can be done. And then Sadali's Limit Break charms, which is also very disruptive, and since it's an attack that charms, he will actually use it, unlike a lot of thieves with their Steel Heart. So I feel like he has a lot of room to play with, both in Auto and Manual, because he has tools that are good in either game mode. And he's a unit that Win players will definitely want to invest in my mind. Then after that, there's a Vision card that's released right after him, and it is definitely in the must-pull category for Win players in my perception. First, this gives 15% agility. I value agility Vision cards very highly, so it's in my recommendations just because of that. But it also has AoE resistance 20%, which, alongside agility, are the 2 most valuable things you can get in Vision cards in my mind, so why would you not pull it? The one drawback, I guess, is that it doesn't give any attack. It's really a magic-oriented Vision card, but there are a lot of good mages for the Wind element that could be equipping this. And then it gives some crit evasion, which is not terrible, but not a stat I value very highly. Still, definitely a Vision card that you should aim for if you're playing a lot of Wind. After that, we get our second MR, so another cost 50 unit. This time it's Ranell. She is Dark Element. She has the same job as Valentine Vildyra we've talked about recently, so we are at least going to get that job when she comes out if we didn't get Vildyra in the meantime. What she does is she enables evasion, she can blind, she can increase evasion for her allies. She herself is fairly evadey, but not that much, so I don't expect her to dodge a lot of attacks. But then she is a good attacking support, so for a couple turns after one of her buffs, she can remove Courage, which is definitely high value, and then she has a lot of debuffs. She can poison, blind, paralyze, disable, and she has access to the sniper sub-job, so she can decrease the enemy movement, and inflict some other debuffs as well. Seems like an interesting unit. For a cost 50, you can use her for the selection quest, perhaps, for Dark Element, or just equip yourself for some cost-limited content, guild battles, and or class matches. After her comes, I think, the unit I'm the most hyped currently for, and that is Eliza. Now, she is an Ice Element Archer, and she has one of the longest range we've seen in the game, mostly because her abilities themselves have very high range, so with the standard range of passives she can equip, she can shoot from across the entire map, essentially. So that is very interesting. She's got different abilities that deal damage and debuff together, so she can lower an enemy's defense, lower an enemy's CT in an AoE, lower AP if she crits, and then she's got another hit that removes moves, Protect, and Shell. So she's got a very well-rounded kit in attacks. She is highly accurate, which is a pro for, in my mind, because evasion is always going to be an issue you have to worry about. And her limit break decreases ice resistance and decreases the enemy's movement. And it's always fun when one of your hardest hitting ability also decreases movement and you're an archer, because it makes the enemies have a lot of difficulty reach you. So usually really good kit overall. As a sub job, you can equip either Trick Lancer or Ranger. So these are both really good options. Ranger gives you the 100% hit, which is a nice thing to have, but Trick Lancer gives you a different damage type if your enemy is very missile resistant. So I feel like she's going to be a good unit, especially in manual, because AI doesn't leverage range that well. They tend to love rushing into an enemy to get more of them into an AoE and then get killed. Whereas if you're playing it with your own human brain, you know that closing in on an enemy while you have a bow is not really to your advantage. After Eliza comes another vision card. Again, nothing time limited here. This is a card that I don't like that much. It's a missile-oriented vision card for the ice units. It gives you missile attack up and slash resistance up, which is good. Some extra crit rate, why not? I feel like it's a good vision card, but when you have stuff like Chaos Odin, Fenrir, the Laswell vision card with agility and physical Maneater, you have so many good ice VCs for a physical team that I don't even know where I would slot this one in. So I feel like if you already have the large roster of ice vision cards, you can just safely skip this. If you're still building it and it gives you the occasion of pulling a vision card and maxing it in a short duration, then sure, she could be a good investment for you. After that, we get another MR unit, Ice Element this time, so it kind of fits what we just got. And this guy is an anti-missile MR. He can be missile immune with 100 missile resistance quite easily. He has the Trick Lancer main job, which is a very well-rounded main job. We've seen how much damage Winter Luartha does. Now, he's an MR, he doesn't have access to the same passives as Winter Luartha, so he won't hit as hard as her, but he is still a very hard-hitting character with some pretty good options. He has an AoE buff that increases accuracy and missile resistance, which feels to me like it's a really good one. And again, just cost 50, so you would run him in limited guild battle, class matches perhaps, maybe not in normal content, but definitely strong in anything cost restricted. After Macleod, we are getting another Dark cost 100 unit, so it's our 5th one if you're counting. Dark Fina is going to be a unit that's somewhere in between Black Rose Helena and Golbez in my mind. So she doesn't hit as hard as Black Rose Helena, she doesn't have the ability to Imperial Dark, then break your shields, then Imperial your spirit, and just set up every spell to be stronger than the next like the Black Witch does. But she does have a re-raise and a pretty good amount of buffs that increase survivability, similarly to Golbez. So she is hard to remove, and she's going to hit a little bit harder than Golbez, I think, from what I see from the mods and on the JP side. What she has that you might like if you enjoy running Dark Mages is the ability to remove the runic buff that Celeste has, so she can dispel that and start hitting her through her absorption. She does have a re-raise, which is always good when you are a fairly squishy mage, and then she can increase dark and light resistance, so I guess that can be good in Dark Mirror matchups or if you're hunting light teams. But overall, I'm not too excited for Dark Fina. I feel like if you already own somebody like Black Rose or Golbez, you're pulling for a unit that's fairly similar to the stuff you already have, and at that point you're going to get an upgrade in some matchups, but it's not like you're massively changing your account. So I'm not extremely fond of her kit, honestly. What I am very fond of, though, is the Vision card that's released alongside her, which is a magic up increase for Dark units. So we already had one really good Vision card for Dark units, which increases agility and that you would put on your mage. Now you can equip either in the sub VC or on your second mage if you're running to this Vision card for 50% magic, 20% missile resistance, and some extra dexterity. Yeah, magic up, really good. Dark does have some great mages to leverage that, so I feel like it's going to be a good VC to get if you're running this. After that comes yet another cost 100 mage, but this time it's for the Earth element. Earth does have some mages, but the only two that I really see once in a while, and they're pretty rare, is Luel and then Killface. So I'm kind of happy that Earth gets something that's different from what it currently uses. She is a fast mage, and she is fairly bulky because she gives herself re-raise and she can heal as well, so she has some means of staying alive. The thing that's very interesting about her version of Re-Raise is when she comes back to life, she gets 1/4 of her turn gauge back. So sometimes even if she wasn't going to be next, she is now going to play immediately upon reviving, which could be very good. She is mostly a magic attacker, so her limit break is an AoE Earth in Peril. She has some magic spells for striking type and magic type, so a lot of really good attacks in her kit. And then depending on the sub-job you want, she has access to Arithmetician, which gives her really good heals and instant cast attacks, or Time Mage. She doesn't have Quicken, but she has Haste, which is still a pretty good thing to cast around. So overall, seems to me like a good cost 100. Is she better than, say, Dark Fina? Not necessarily, but in her element, there aren't a lot of other mages. So unlike for Dark, if you're pulling for her, you are allowing yourself to run a magic-oriented user that is competitive and up-to-date in the meta. So that's quite interesting in my mind. Now, you might be thinking, how can she be good? Earth does not have a vision card that's really good for mages, and you're right, but Gumi thought of that. So, the week after Macherie's release, Earth gets a vision card that's just crazy. It gives 25 accuracy for Earth units. I love this. I don't love missing to evade. I think I'm rather known for that, so yeah, accuracy, always good. But also 50% magic up, so now you have something to equip for your mage, and if you're running Noctis, it's not entirely bad, because his Arminger does scale off of magic, so you do have a couple characters that could leverage this, and then 10 slash resistance for all your Earth units on top, because why not? Definitely a top tier vision card if you're an Earth player. I think you will want to go for that. This also comes with an Esper, but I think the Esper is pretty average. I didn't see anything go out of surprise me too much in here. If you're running Macherie, it's going to be a really good offensive Esper. It has magic attack up, it has earth attack up, it will hit hard, but nothing in there seems to me like it's a must pull in terms of the Esper. So this is it. We're now up to date with what has been released in JP at the time of recording. Now, it just was announced that there is going to be a Final Fantasy XIII collaboration right after that, where you can get Lightning, Hope, and Snow. So if you like these characters and you like Final Fantasy XIII, maybe save up a little bit more for this. These are definitely going to be time limited, whereas there wasn't really a lot of time limited stuff in what I just covered today. And then on top of that, Final Fantasy Tactics is going to get a rerun, which will allow you to get the characters that were released the first time around, or if you have them already, they're going to just be getting EX jobs. Nothing new released for Final Fantasy Tactics, I believe, so if you already own these units, you don't have to plan around your viz too much for this. So, this is it. Thank you so much for watching. I did try to go very quickly over everything, so if I missed something major, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to pin something and let people know. But this is it. I feel like, personally, I'm going to go for Eliza, surely, because I like her kit, and then probably Sadali and his vision card. The rest, I'm going to skip a lot of what's in there, because if it's not time limited, I don't feel too pressed to build it immediately. So, that's it. See you soon.